right now.
Very good. Well, good morning, Dr. Milu.
Good morning. How are you, Tony?
I am well. And I understand we have a special guest this morning.
Yes, I brought a special guest and she's up and running this morning. And she is April Porter, and I've been coaching April for how long now, April? Over 5-6 years now?
Since 2016.
Since 2016. So there you go, Tony. You can calculate the math.
Now, it's a little too early for math. Your Coffee with the Coach is full screen.
Yes, because we want to make sure everybody is seeing the Coffee with the Coach, and then I will stop sharing that.
Very good. Well, good morning, April. I've heard so much about you from Dr. Milu. I guess I've known him for about a year now, a little over a year that we've been associated. And I've heard much about you. And congratulations to you in being successful, a successful businesswoman.
Thank you.
Field.
Thank you. Likewise, I've heard about you as well, and it sounds like you're doing well, I hope.
Thank you. Yes, it's COVID times are new opportunities. It just depends how you look at these changes in life.
That's so true. Yes.
No doubt. So tell me a little bit about how you came to meet Dr. Milu. I know our subject matter today is we're still talking about the self-love dimension.
Yes.
So I'm interested in how you play into this self-love. I know probably I should explain, April has been the owner of 9 Rounds Boxing, four locations in St. Louis. For how many years has that been?
7 years.
For 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I can presume part of that has to do with self-care.
Yes. I mean, we would promote self-care and, strive to also practice self-care.
And were you a boxing fanatic yourself, or a high intensity workout person yourself? What drove you to that category?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I actually, when I was leaving my position, looking to leave my position and really exploring what was out there for me to do next, I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to own a business. And I also, one of my big passions was dancing. I danced competitively even past college. So when I was looking at what to do next, I had actually a friend who opened a 9 Round location in Kansas City, and I saw, I kickboxing, and it was really cool concept because there's no class time, so you get to just like work it into your busy schedule, and it's only a half hour, but you burn a ton of calories, so it's not a strain on your schedule, but you still get the benefits of an intense workout. So the kickboxing aspect of it tied in so much to dance, just knowing where every piece of your body is for a single movement. I really enjoy that type of workout. It helps with mental clarity. You don't have an opportunity to think about what's stressing you out, anything. You have to think about what you're doing.
You're in the present moment is what
exactly. And so it that combined with hitting and kicking things, like by the time you walk out, you just feel so much stress relief and so much better. So it was like kind of the perfect storm. It was the right timing, the way I got exposed to it through a friend, so I could really learn about it without having to go through official channels and get the spiel, and then it being kickboxing, and so. And
leaving the corporate world, it gave you a reason to kick that bag and get those frustrations out.
Exactly. So yeah.
So then how did you come across to meet Dr. Milu?
Actually, one of the marketing techniques I used early in was to join my local chambers of commerce. And I met Dr. Milu through the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce. We ended up in a leads group together. And he had, I don't know if you still do this or not, but he had a quiz that I took, and then we met together to go over the results of the quiz.
Very good. And you struck the relationship at that point.
Right. I knew I had actually been looking for a long time. And in our first conversation, how I explained it to Dr. Milu is I felt like I had a very good grasp of about 75% of my business and the various hats I had to wear in that 75%. But I felt like there was a piece of the pie that was missing. And I didn't know enough to identify what that piece was. So I didn't really know where to get help to fill it in because I couldn't quite grasp what was missing, feel that it was missing. So I had actually hired some other types of coaches prior to meeting Dr. Milu, sales coach, another kind of business coach, but none of it ended up fitting in that piece of that missing piece of the puzzle. And when I went over those quiz results with Dr. Milu, and we actually we're talking about, I honestly don't hardly remember what we talked about in that first meeting. I just remember feeling like I had found the person who filled in that missing piece of the puzzle.
So you felt that connection.
Yeah.
He was helping you to dig a little deeper into yourself to see what you needed.
Well, actually, in that moment, I just
and what you knew already
was impressed with him and his expertise. I could tell that he had a grasp of 100% of the different angles of business. And so that first meeting, I just felt very confident that I had found the answer. And then we moved into the second meeting, and yes, the second time we did the menu of life, and that meeting was kind of, for me, life-changing. That's where I really, I had so many aha moments about myself through the exercise. And that's what really solidified that this was the right relationship to move me forward in my business. And it continues to be so.
So in those aha moments, were they totally new revelations, or were they things that you kind of knew about yourself, or a strength or a dream or a thought that suddenly shined a greater light on?
I think it was a combination of both. I mean, certain aspects of it just pointed out that I was not, for a cliche, I was not looking at the forest for the trees. Like my thinking and my vision was like 2 steps in front of me instead of, and I had dreams of where I wanted to go, but I was blocking myself by being too narrow-minded in both in spec and also in future distance, like how long it would take me to achieve certain things. I envisioned it taking me forever when it was just one simple decision and I could accomplish it that day. And it was a lot of little light switch, flipping a switch, and it was like, oh, I guess yeah, you're right, I can do that. This week.
It's like, you want to do it, and you should do it, and it seems like it's so far out of grasp that, well, yeah. I'll get to that, but all you have to do is decide to do it.
Yeah, a lot of it was that, but it definitely, it's hard to explain to someone, and I know that you've been through it, but when I try to explain it to others, it's a hard thing to explain to others because it's one of those moments in life where when it happens, and I think a lot of people in business, they know where they want to go and they believe they're going to get there, and so they don't necessarily think they need any help getting there, but you know, bringing that new perspective in, and Dr. Milu helping me open my mind, I was never a closed-minded person. So I think that that's a, you know, a misnomer too, is people think, oh, but I'm an open-minded person. Well, I'm an open-minded person, but my perspective was narrow, and it was in a box. You know, it was my perspective. And what I've learned over time is to stretch that perspective and to be able to consider multiple perspectives of the same situation, which allows me to move so much faster forward. It allows me to evaluate a situation from the standpoint where my initial perspective could be wrong. And so I don't waste a lot of time following just because it's my idea or because I think it's a great idea. You know, now I understand how to give it a 360.
And to be able to take some insights from other people that might work for you. They might be managers, they may be other individuals, to say, oh, well, that is a very good idea. It doesn't always have to be my idea.
Right. And also sometimes disagreeing with them, thinking I don't think that's a great idea, but I'm going to let you try it anyway, you know, and we'll see how it goes. Because just because I don't think it's a great, necessarily the great, if you believe in it and you have your reasons for believing in it, let's try it and see what happens. And then, you know, through that process, we may use that, or it may, we may alter it to come up with the greatest solution that we wouldn't have come up with, either one of us, on our own.
Well, that's an interesting point too, because when you own a business, there are other people in the business, employees and managers and other people you rely upon. And there's relationships there that you have to nurture. And we've all, at one point in our life, worked for a boss that it was my way or the highway. And okay, I'll take the highway, you know?
Yeah.
And if you have good people, you have to let them grow and be open to their ideas.
Right.
So I guess that brings on a little bit of a love aspect too, is the love of other people.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me personally, in owning a business, that was my number one priority. My number one priority was providing a great working environment for my employees. And it's because I came out of a situation that was unpleasant. And so I wanted to create a place people wanted to be as far as employment.
And you wanted to be too. I mean,
Right.
The other thing is, the worst thing is to show up at your own business and you don't want to be there anymore.
Right.
And I'm sure you probably had those days.
Oh, I mean, I think everybody has those days, you know. We'd rather be on a beach.
No doubt. Or sometimes what you create, and you might have one person in the group that is a problem, and you finally identify, I thought I needed that person, but they're actually more of a problem than a help.
Yes.
So tell me more of your evolution, because I see, or I've heard now, after 7 years, you recently sold your business.
I did. So, well, for us, when we originally, when I say us, my husband and I, when we originally looked into purchasing the 9-round franchise, we committed to opening 3 locations. And it was one of those things, kind of like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it, you know. We don't, so we started to open the 3 locations, and got to a point where it made sense to go ahead and do a 4th. So we did a 4th, and I was able to grow pretty quickly. We did all that within 3 years. And I was able to do that because when I went in my first location, and this is before I met Dr. Milu, I looked at what I had in front of me and I realized, you know, what's special about this is the personality that the trainers, or and myself, I was a trainer at the time, the personality that is brought in, because it creates a community and a family among the people who belong. And so I thought, now I can't be in 3 places at once. How on earth are we going to replicate this when I can't be here? So from the very beginning, I started to create processes and procedures that would allow me to teach my first employees how to do what I was doing.
How to build a community.
Yeah, and how to run the gym in a way that was efficient, you know. And then, but I did think ahead in that I'm like, okay, it can't be just a process that I can teach them, but it has to be something that they can then take and teach the next hires. Because again, I can't be everywhere to teach all the employees either.
So it's got to be a system.
It's got to be a system. It's got to be systematic and duplicatable. So I started to create that. Once I had that, and I mean, I shouldn't say have, I had great employees. They're still there and they're still wonderful, but they're not my employees any longer. You know, they believed wholeheartedly. They bought in. We did, with Dr. Milu's help, we did several strategic planning days, which helped the employees to feel like they had a voice and that they had a say in the trajectory of the company and in the how it was going to grow. And so those things were really helped us catapult forward and grow at a quick rate. I had always planned to sell between like 5 and 7 years in. And so that was.
And where in that process did you meet Dr. Milu?
I met him in between opening our 3rd and 4th locations.
So that'd be about 3 years in?
Mm-hmm. So about 3 years in. And at that point, even though I had made all those processes and procedures and things were able to be duplicated, I was still in the business like 60 hours a week. And, you know, we were opening up a 4th one because we felt like it made sense for a lot of reasons, but I was like looking down the barrel of opening a 4th one and I was just kind of drowning, you know. I'm like, I could do it and it would be successful, but I didn't want to be spending 60 hours a week in my business any longer. I was 3 years in. I wanted to have that freedom of time that I had envisioned when I decided to own a business. I think a lot of what you envision when you just make the decision to own a business is not reality once you do. You know, that's where finding someone like Dr. Milu comes into place, is when you find someone to help you get over that hump, that's when you can start really enjoying what you've built, I think. So yeah, it was perfect timing because for me, I was not wanting to do that any longer, but I was looking at opening a 4th location, and based on my experience, that was going to require me to spend that type of time.
And probably more.
Right. But like we started working together, I think in like possibly like a July, like really started to work together in July or August. And when that location opened, I was there, but not like any of the other locations beforehand. And I was able to pull back. I didn't work weekends any longer. I didn't work nights any longer. It was a matter, and that's the kind of thing I was talking about. I saw that potentially like a couple of years down the road. Honestly, at that time, I may have thought that I would never be able to stop doing that until we sold.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but in just like 2 months' time, I was basically out of working in the gyms like that and able to work on the business most of my time.
And you credit your exposure to Dr. Milu to that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
He made you realize why you got into the business and how you can let go of the strings.
Yeah. He made me realize that, like a lot of times I think I was what was in my way, and I could have never acknowledged that on my own or seen it, but I just had to get out of my own way.
Right. And when you have somebody like a spouse who is close enough to you to see what's going on, you don't necessarily want to hear it from your spouse.
Right.
Because they're usually a balance to you, a counterbalance, and you're the one that you feel is directing everything.
Well, and I think it's hard too. I mean, at that point in time, my husband was like, enough is enough. Like, you're working every night, every weekend. We don't see each other. This is not why we opened a business. Like, you have to figure something out. And it's hard because I heard what he's saying, and I wanted the same things, but I felt such an overwhelming responsibility to succeed and to build and to grow and to bring in more revenue to support us and our family. So I mean, it was, it's one of those things like, I think internally it was a yes, I want that too, but I don't think you understand if I stop doing what I'm doing, then we could go bankrupt, so it's like,
was he working in the business too, or did he have?
No, he was working full time. He does work full time in another capacity.
Gotcha.
He works for someone. So, which, I mean, he obviously contributes to the household, but I think when you have a business and you see like that you have the potential for unlimited income if you grow it in the right way, at least for me, I felt a strong responsibility to achieve that. And I felt like no matter what, I could potentially be disappointing.
So the financial objective
Right.
was the only measure that you had to your worth and value of what you created with your business.
I don't think it was the only one, because we were getting a lot of recognition across the county, and I really appreciated that. And I knew that we were doing a good job, and because the community we built, even the internal community was thriving. So I don't think the financial was the only thing, but my husband,
The only measure,
but my husband was not involved in the business really at all. Like, it's solely me. And so I felt like he was unaware of the inner workings of the business. And so it was very easy for him to say, you need to stop doing this, without necessarily being able to connect the dots to the consequences of me stopping it, as I believed them to be at the time. Once I started working with Dr. Milu and actually stopped doing those things, the consequences I imagined weren't even there. The business actually thrived and grew faster and better when I was able to get out of being so entrenched in it. But I couldn't see that, at the time until I started my work with Dr.
So I'm just curious, because I don't know the answer to this, but did your buyer come from within your own employee organization?
No, he
did not. Okay.
Mm-mm.
I was just curious if that would be the next step.
It would be, and I do. What we did is we had built a business that was, as much as I would love for an employee to take it over, was probably cost prohibitive for an employee to inherit it.
Yeah.
So,
and you want to sell a business for as much as you can. That's the objective of growing a business, to sell it.
Right.
And so that's totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what's next.
Oh, that's a great question. I have a lot of opportunities that we just sold September 1st. So it's very fresh, very new. I have many, I've been approached by many different opportunities, and then some I sought out. So it's decision time. I have to make some decisions. Along the way, while I owned 9Round, because I was able to pull myself out of the business, I learned that I have a huge passion for helping other small business owners, and I'd love to help them do what I did, which is, grow to sell for profit and then take on the next challenge. So I actually started a consulting company to help with the processes and procedures side of things, and founded a marketing company with another person so that we have some programs and things that people can use to help, like tools to help them move their business forward. So I have that going on now, but I'm also looking for another large business investment at this point.
Very good. And travel plans possibly?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that was probably one of the that was one of the biggest gifts that I think Dr. Milu gave me, which was when we were talking about what I really wanted out of life. We wanted to travel. We love traveling, my husband and I. But in 2016, when I started working with Dr. Milu, we hadn't been on a single vacation in 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, since we started the business, we hadn't gone anywhere. And so it was his suggestion. He's like, well, what's stopping you? You need to go, And so he and I came up with a plan to travel once a quarter. And I took that home to my husband and I said, okay, what do you think? Once a quarter, we're going to go somewhere. And he was like, we could try it. And we've done it ever since. And well, except through COVID. COVID did put a kink in our
Sure.
in our plans. But so we are headed finally. We are headed now in October to Orlando. We're going to do the theme parks in October, and we're so excited about it.
And with children, I presume?
No, we don't have any children.
Oh, really? So this is the child coming out in you.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I love everything about Disney and Universal and movies and all that stuff. So we have a great time there.
Very good. Very good. Well, that should be, I understand that the crowds are small, so it's a good time to go.
Yeah, I hope that's what we hear. So we're kind of, fingers crossed that it plays out that way.
Mm-hmm. So how is our time, Dr. Milu?
Time is doing fabulously well, Tony. It always does. It's and I'm okay to extend it a little bit longer because we are hearing so much good things about April, and we are having so much fun. And as you can see, the vacations are in water right now, and the child is the only thing I cannot help you with. So you have to see a different doctor for that. But, so the connection here, I would bring it in self-love. Coaching is all about self-love. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't realize that you are in business because you love yourself. And you want to grow yourself, and you want to help others, which is our relationship dimension, where love, which is connecting with others. So it is so fabulously designed, and it is working so well, because just because you are in a business don't mean you cannot love yourself. Actually, by loving yourself, you make your business more and more successful.
That's true.
And April is a living and breathing example of that. And not only that, she sold her business, and she's now open to many ideas, a concept that we always talk about in our coaching called flying concept. Mm-hmm. And Tony, you may be familiar with that. April is very familiar with that. And that concept is in play. And self-love is one of the things that we call in self-love is having self-trust, where you trust yourself for the judgment you make, for the decision you do in your life, and how you take yourself in that direction. Because if you cannot trust yourself, you cannot trust anybody. So,
well, that's a very good point. And I think everybody who has been in business in any factor, in any manner, it takes time, because you're always with yourself, to realize I actually know what I'm doing. You know, I'm actually good at what I do, and giving you that self-praise, which extends into the self-trust and into the confidence that you can see it in other people more. And I was just talking to somebody about Seth Meyers. It seems like Seth Meyers, as a communicator in his show, seemed to always be trying to prove himself that he was as good as the other talk show hosts because he was the new one. But suddenly, it's like the light switch turned on through this COVID time, and he realizes, like, you know what? I'm good at what I do. And that self-trust seems to shine through for him. And he does seem like a better talk show host if you've watched him at all. But I think you can see that in other people. So I think that self-trust is a good point to bring up.
Well, one of the thing about self-love is, and we talked about it last episode, is that not settling for less than you deserve. And when you don't settle for that, you continue to thrive because you deserve more. And the understanding of that, it starts with a positive talk with yourself. And we have practiced that. April know that, how to be a positive self, how you get rid of your negatives and become positive. You replace the words and that becoming a positive self-talker. Means you are talking to yourself positively. You are taking good care of yourself. You are eating healthy food. You are not running into habits that are not good. And start, and we talked about that last session, stop comparing yourself with somebody else. Because if you continue to compare yourself, and that's where the self-hate comes from, because you compare yourself, you start comparing with yourself with Bill Gates, of course you will be thinking small. But if you compare yourself with yourself and say, well, I could be much bigger than Bill Gates, because he's not the first one who came and took over the world. And nothing wrong with Bill Gates. I'm just saying it could be, anybody else. And if they can make it, why cannot you?
Well, that's very good.
Yeah, and having that trust of yourself give you, and it takes time, Tony. You will not have that trust built just instantly. It can be done. I have done it, and it can be done instantly, but you have to work at it. And once you continue to polish that sword, it will become shiny and it will be sharp and it will cut through any dangers or any challenges you have and make you perfect. And that's why it's called self-love. And April, if you want to add to that, go for it.
I mean, I think that you summed it up really well. I mean, I can add my experience, which is, I feel, and those that know me would probably attest, that I've always had a very high self-confidence. But when we started working together, I did learn that the word choices I had in certain situations were not the most positive. And by switching that, that little exercise alone, identifying what words could even have a negative connotation when it doesn't quite sound negative to the people who are listening, but in the context of you as a person is not the most positive way to think about it. When you make those switches, when you identify those words and you can make the switch to a new vocabulary, that brings in a whole new energy, I would say, and a new level of self-love that it can be constant. And when you're tempted to fall back into that comfort zone of the old vocabulary and the old words, it becomes very obvious, and it helps you identify it, and it helps you move past, give yourself that little mental check and move past it.
Well, to that point, this evening at 6 o'clock, we are having music with mindfulness, and Molly from Nashville, Tennessee will be joining me, and she will be singing some fabulous song for self-love, and we will be connecting that dot. So you will see how music impacts your self-love and how music creates that mindfulness that will take you to a different dimension altogether. So that's why we call it, Tony, activity-based coaching. Everything we do as a human being is related to some type of activity. As you know, just before I joined in with you, I was coaching one of my clients who is owner of Cycle Bar, and we are doing cycling and coaching. And as you can see, in cycling is now, we are spreading the love. People are enjoying it. They're coming back to the gym as COVID is over. If we can get over it, if we cannot get over it, it will stay. It's the mindset change. And as we're changing those mindset every day, you can see people are having that self-love. And in gymnasium, as April knows, is a place to have that, have connecting with yourself. You are doing something for yourself in the gymnasium. You're not doing for anybody else. But guess what? If you live better, if you have a better health, and if you enjoy your life, you are spreading that happiness like wildfire. And that happiness is what become infective. That's a virus that you can get the whole world on board. And if you do that, then you will see how that positivity goes to everybody, and you not only loving yourself, you're loving the whole world. You're making impact, positive impact.
Well, very good. This has been a very good conversation, and I'm glad that April has joined us for Coffee and the Coach. And we will tune in tonight at 6 o'clock for mindfulness with music. And I will look forward to seeing you again on the first Tuesday in October for our next session with Coffee and the Coach. As I have to run off to another activity myself and prepare for a little production this morning.
I didn't know you can sip coffee like April is doing, but we are cheering up, and let's go get the world and love yourself. Thank you, April, and thank you, Tony.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye now.